You ready to rock? Let us now settle into a spirit of worship with a moment of quiet, to be followed by the music of Wake Now My Senses, arranged by Cliff Harden and played by our own music director, Matthew Johnson. A couple of service notes this morning. The choral introit is not a choral introit, it is an introit that will be played by Matthew. And our closing hymn, which was introduced to you last week, and we're singing again because it is truly a hymn from us, is a hymn that was created and written by Matt Johnson. So you are also welcome to light a silent candle of joy or sorrow at this time. In the soft light of this flame, may we see life anew. May the supposedly real seem less solid. May the inevitable reveal its carefully concealed cracks. It's all made of pieces and parts, friends, each of them longing to be arranged. Or maybe it's a story, and the pen is in our hand. Every morning, there is some form of magic in this place. I was about to comment on the candles on the altar and ask you which one you were, the one whose flame was rising high, which obviously had had an enormous amount of caffeine, or the one that was barely visible, but that danced awake during the music, which is all the more reason to have music in this place, that we all might dance awake in our own way. So I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Worcester on this wonderful, sunny spring day. This congregation of love, hope, and justice, inspiring people to take on the challenges of a changing world. My name is Aaron Payson, and I continue to be honored to be one of the ministers of this congregation. We begin by acknowledging that here in Worcester, Massachusetts, we work, learn, live, and worship on the seized ancestral homeland of the Nipmuc people, who survive and remain active as the Nipmuc Nation. We offer a very special welcome for those of you who are new and visiting us for the first time this morning. We are delighted that you're here. We hope that you'll join us in Fellowship Hall following the service for refreshments and conversation. If you have questions or desire more information about this service or any of the ministries or programs of this congregation, please don't hesitate to ask any of us. We invite you to fill out one of the cards found in the pews. These cards can be placed in the offering plate or given to one of the ushers or greeters this morning. For those of you joining us online this morning, we offer you a very special welcome. For safety purposes and so that we might come to know you better, please, as you are able, place your name on your video feed. Please take a moment to sign one of the attendance clipboards that are now being circulated. Though you're not obligated to sign, we appreciate your information and will use it only for church purposes. During the service, we offer an opportunity to share a brief personal joy or sorrow. If you'd like to have yours read aloud by me, please print it on an index card also found in the pews. And you're welcome to place that either in the collection plate or bring it forward at the time of joys or sorrows, and I will be glad to read it. These cards will also be posted outside my office to be shared with our friends at other services. For those of you online, you can place a joy or sorrow in the chat. Please precede it by the words, "Please read," so that we can find it quickly. And we will also share these during this time of celebration. In the foyer are listening devices and large print service and hymnals for those who might find their assistance beneficial. I also note that there are a couple more pew cushions for those of you who might find those beneficial. You know who you are. I now invite you to turn your technology to worship mode. And finally, please note the announcements on the back of your order of service. There will be time for short verbal announcements following our postlude this morning. We are so glad that you're here and hope that this morning is an opportunity for rest, reflection, and rejuvenation. Laurel Mendes writes, "Creation is messy, inconvenient, and often uncooperative. Take a look at the cosmos. Go ahead, close your eyes and imagine the stars. When you do, forget the Franz Joseph Haydn spacious firmament bit. His images are far too tidy. See the real mess the universe made of itself 14 billion years ago. All of creation is still trying to clean that up. It's called the Big Bang, not the grand coalescence, for a reason. Mistakes were made, probably, and incorporated into the whole anyway. And wonders never cease. Here we still are muddling along 14 billion years after the fact. Now open your eyes and look around you. You are surrounded by the most astounding, miraculous wonder of all. Each other. Community. Life ongoing, caring about life ongoing. So it is. So it shall be. Because we do care. Would you please join in our opening hymn, number 288, found in your gray hymnals. And please rise in body or in spirit. Old please be seated. I want to invite those youngest among us with their baskets of change for change to circulate at this time. For those of you who are new with us, each time we gather for worship, our youth take up a change for change collection, which is their weekly contribution to the emergency fund of this congregation, also known as the Minister's Discretionary Fund. If you have change, please raise your hand and one of our youth will be by to find you. And you can bring your baskets forward to me. And we hope for you a wonderful day and a fun time with each other today. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Lucia Capaccioni writes, "When you create, you lose yourself in your creation. Time seems to stand still and all else is forgotten. You participate in the divine play that is creativity. These moments offer a glimpse of who you really are, a being fashioned in the image and the likeness of the divine. Like the source of all creation, you are a creator too. It is your divine birthright. The person who says, I'm not creative. Who are you? Raise your, come on, let's be honest. I'm not creative is uttering blasphemy. The truth is that you are the creative self expressing through the human vessel of your body, emotions, mind, and soul. Creativity flows through you as a universal life force, called by many names throughout the ages: the Chi, the Purana, the Shakti, the Holy Spirit. Losing yourself in this divine embrace of the creative process, you disappear. Your ego or limited sense of separateness vanishes, and you emerge into the vast ocean that is creativity. This is an altered state of intuitive awareness in which you renounce control from your head alone. Instead, you allow the creative self to flow through your heart and your body and your intuition. Then you are taken to places you can never go in your ordinary waking state. This road leads inevitably to moments of divine bliss described by ecstatic poets like Rumi and Kabir and Lali. We come to that moment in our service when we're given an opportunity to share that which is symbolic of our own efforts, that which is in part the product of our own creativity, our own service and effort in the world, symbolic of that which we cherish and symbolic too of that which we can gift to the world itself. And so each time we gather for worship, we take up an offering that is symbolic of this process. So I invite those of you who are here If you would like to participate in the offering digitally, you're welcome to text 508-231-5335, or you can reach into the pocket of the person sitting in front of you, pull out their checkbook, and write the check you've always wanted to write to this place. And you might have to go a few rows forward, right? At this time, the morning offering will be received. We come to that part in our service when we're given pause to consider what is deepest in our hearts, or most profoundly on our minds, or in the work of our hands in the days that have transpired, or in the prospect of days to come, joys and sorrows that touch us deeply and are given another measure of meaning because of our capacity to share them in the midst of a company that claims us as a co-journeyer. So I invite those of you who have joys or sorrows this day to come forward and form lines on either side of the sanctuary, to come and speak briefly into the microphone, telling us first who you are, so that those using our auditory enhancement devices or joining us online can also participate in this important ritual. And then to light a candle if you so desire. Or if you simply want to come forward and light a candle, you're welcome to do so. Are there joys or sorrows to be shared this day?
Yay! Continuing on the story from last week, our Brazilian mama delivered on Thursday, her exact due date, and she will be bringing her newborn and 6-year-old home to IHN this week, Monday, tomorrow. Yay! And you guys are all of our volunteers at IHN this week, so I just think that this is amazing, and I can't wait to see you.
Hi, I'm Nancy. Vicariously, I made a quilt for my granddaughter, a softball quilt. Other people probably have them in their family. for my graduating granddaughter. It was both happy and sad yesterday as I watched her pitch her last games. And it is amazing, I sit here in this church. I graduated from college in this church, but no one said anything that generation. Then my son, we started with them honoring people who graduated from high school and, you know, pop-up college here and there and how proud you were. And now here I stand with my granddaughter, 3 generations. It's amazing. The other thing is the quilt group that I'm vicariously a member of to make that quilt for my granddaughter is donating their beautiful quilts so that we can enjoy them on and off, starting with this one from Mary.
Good morning. My name's Paul, but you knew that. I'm 72 right now, and one of the things I've noticed is people around me, my age, plus or minus a couple of years, are getting sick and extended hospital stays. There's a friend of mine that politically, I'm here, he's there, you know, but we do wellness checks every so often. I call like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and no responses. So I went to his house and I found a bunch of mail in his mailbox, okay, and a bunch of papers that get delivered. And I says, okay, and I had a key, so I went to open the key, but there's another lock I couldn't get. So I went to the police department, and they said, I told them that we could do a wellness check, and I explained what I did. And and so they called around the hospitals and found out he's in Lawrence General Hospital. This is John, you know him, yeah. And so meanwhile, he's at that, and I'm going to myself, you know. Then I called another person that knew him, and I can't get a hold of him either. So I don't know. And he's like, I'm 72, John's 79, the other one's like 78. So what happened all these years? My God. But nevertheless, you know, I'm wishing him well. That's all I can do. I mean, you know, politically, I won't say anything. But, and also one last thing, on the 5th of May, my uncle, my uncle John, he was like my favorite uncle. He was the one who was like my surrogate dad. And he helped me through a lot of stuff. He passed away, you know, back in many years ago. And just raising the sorrow for that.
Hi, my name is Sue. I have 2 joys. One is this coming week is our volunteer week at IHN, and I'm happy to say the week is filled. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate your help. Yay. Last minute Saturday, I'm going away next, well, I'm not going away. I'm going away to babysit. Babysit next weekend, so the Van Battenberg's filled Saturday, thankfully. The second joy is I retired on Friday. Woo!
Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Deb. Well, I too was going to comment on the quilt because Robin had posted a picture of it. And I said, I feel like we're our own art museum display of floral. You know, like it's so perfect with the flowers behind it and the colors and the reverence of that quilt. So I'm here to have a joy of book publishing. My best friend Donna, who Aaron knows well, is on the final step of publishing a book called Turning Our Tears to Dancing. It is about her sister and niece who were murdered, and it is a 50-year-old cold case. And as a result, she is very involved in trauma at the Peace Garden in Boston. Aaron worked on the book, I worked on the book. Father Mike at St. Anne's worked on the book with her. But it is going to be a wonderful gift to families that need to heal from something violent that happened in their life. My second joy is we are part of the community garden across the lake at Indian Lake. We have a book that's on its final journey called Reggie and Arlene. It's about two dogs whose owners walk them near the community garden, and it's the whole story of the garden. And that garden is a teaching garden for Forest Grove, Woodard Day, and one on the Collaborative. And those kids all volunteer there. And it's teaching them about food sustainability. But the book is finally done, and it's on its way. Craig wrote the foreword, it's beautiful. And so what a joy, 2 books to go out in the world and make a difference. Thank you.
I'll make this brief. I brought a lot of people here to church, and some of you remember them. I just want to give you a follow-up on their lives. Back in 1999, I came here with David Osborne, who I met at the homeless shelter. Back from Iraq and Afghanistan, serious PTSD in the middle of a divorce, and really lost. And he worked for me for about a year, and now he's driving an Amazon truck and doing great. He's back with not with his family, but he sees his kids. That was a real success, took a few years. Haza, who is a refugee from Sudan, you might remember him, he was 6'6" and a lot darker than me. He came in here and he worked as an intern for us for a while. It took $26,000, a whole lot of trips to Washington, D.C. to become legally in Massachusetts. He's driving an Uber in Boston. He's been back to Cairo, Egypt to visit his wife and kids. They'll be moving here in June, and the whole family will become Americans eventually and enjoy a lot of success here. And if you're watching the news about Sudan, it's ugly. There was a fellow by the name of, well, my niece, I don't remember if you remember this one, but I found out I had a niece who was homeless with 3 kids living in a trailer in a big mess south of Pittsburgh. They've been here a year, they're doing great, the kids had a birthday party, it's just a joy to see them. All of this happens because I have a little apartment that has 2 bedrooms that I keep as my office around the corner, so people have a place to stay, and I'm really lucky about that. And lastly, we have some new grandkids. My son got married a few weeks ago unexpectedly, which was great news. So a lot of good has come out of this church. I haven't been here in a long time, but I need to get back to remember why I do what I do. And I'll leave you with this, I'm sure you've heard it before. When you have more than you need, build a longer table, not a higher wall. And I'm lucky to be able to do that. And I know a lot of you do the same thing.
Thank you. Are there any joys or sorrows online? Okay. Hold on. This is why. So, Matt Bajun writes, last week, the World Health Organization declared COVID no longer a global health emergency. If that's true, perhaps it was the most ideal time for the 3 Bajuns to get COVID. Pleased to report that George, Kate, and I are mending after an unpleasant week. I'm thankful for healthcare workers, scientists, and creators of vaccines and antivirals. And Cheryl Lachey writes, dear ones, our fellow online worshipers on Facebook have been invited to send me a copy of a photo of themselves so that those of us unable to meet in person but who consider themselves part of this congregation can also be seen. It's an accessibility thing. If those who must attend on Zoom would like to join in on this, you too are invited to send a digital pic to me. We don't want to leave out anyone by accident. Beth Posner Waldron writes, thankful for my UU friends and others in Texas, thinking of them, and sending them virtual hugs, grateful to live in Massachusetts, but sadly we cannot take safety from gun violence for granted. Yet we need to continue to live our lives fully and finding joy wherever we can. Kim Napoleone writes, after a very busy week of theater, hospital visits, and a weekend full of performances, I'm really looking forward to rest, reflection, and rejuvenation coming during this new week with sun and spring temperatures. And Jenny Delghese writes, joy, fun times meeting UUs in the wild at events this weekend. Let us be in the spirit of prayer and meditation. The spirit of life. We come this day in celebration of new life as it arrives both by season and in person. Grateful too to serve that life in myriad ways that help to bring into fullness the possibility that life itself has. Grateful this day for generations that have come before us and that will come after us, and the opportunity to witness to that longevity and to celebrate graduations. We would honor those this day that remind us that art is not only important, but it is necessary, and that our welcome has a far reach as we continue to serve a world where people on the margins search for home and health and sustenance. Let us be mindful of the privilege not only of that which we have, but of our capacity to set a larger table instead of building a bigger wall. Help us be mindful of those who parented us, those who we remember as our peers as they struggle for health and wholeness, those in the world who continue to seek justice. Might they all be heard, might they all be welcome, might they all be safe. Amen, and blessed be. The world is before you, and you need not take it or leave it as it was when you came in. The world is before you, and you need not take it or leave it as it was when you came in. These words end an address entitled In Search of a Majority, written by the 20th century author and public critic James Baldwin. These words conclude a reflection on the state of our country in the mid-20th century during the tumult of the Civil Rights era. Baldwin attempts in his reflection to outline the contours of the rhetoric of majorities and minorities in the American milieu of the era. His conclusion is a clarion cry to do what others like contemporary public philosopher Cornel West entreats, to go beyond the evidence, to create new possibilities based on visions that become contagious, to allow people to engage in heroic actions always against the odds. On a morning when we once again awaken to the news of another mass shooting in our country, some 150 such incidents since the beginning of 2023. This call to create new possibilities seems more urgent than ever. What does it mean to go beyond the evidence? And what, if anything, does all this have to do with our nature as creative beings? Baldwin begins his reflection by outlining what he believes defines the majority and the minority in America, hearkening back to the era when Anglo-Saxon heritage, that of New England and Virginia, and Virginian aristocracies, defined what Henry James called our Anglo-American heritage. Not that those who defined this heritage were in any way a significant majority. However, they did bear witness to two important elements of life which Baldwin notes are not greatly respected among us now. The first, social forms called manners, which prevent us from rubbing too abrasively against one another. And two, the interior life, the life of the mind. I hear an echo here amplified by Cornel West in his book Race Matters some years ago. He noted nearly a century later, we confine discussions about race in America to the problems Black people pose for whites rather than to consider what this way of viewing Black people reveals about us as a nation. This paralyzing framework, says West, encourages liberals, ouch, to relieve their guilty consciences by supporting public funds directed at the problems, but at the same time reluctant to exercise principled criticism of Black people. Liberals deny them the freedom to err. Similarly, conservatives blame the problems on Black people themselves, and thereby render Black social misery invisible or unworthy of public attention. Hence, for liberals, Black people are to be included and integrated into our society and culture, while for conservatives, they are to be well-behaved and worthy of acceptance by our way of life. Both fail to see the presence and the predicaments of Black people are neither additions nor defections from American life, but rather constitutive elements of that life. Manners and interior life, indeed. Clearly, while the aristocracies of a previous era have vanished in form, the social ethic they displayed has evolved and mutated into a political division. And still, there is no attempt on the part of the majority on either side to attend to what Baldwin and West point to, which is to go beyond the boundaries established by our history and our heritages to seek a vision of a country and of communities which treat all people as constitutive elements of our common life. This is the creative opportunity before us as a country. And the absence of that particular possibility continues to play out as violence. And we see that the standard bearers of an old regime continue to strategize in order to maintain not so much power, interestingly enough, but status. Here, James Baldwin again. These vanished aristocracies, these vanished standard bearers had several limitations, and not the least of these limitations was the fact that their standards were essentially nostalgic. They referred to a past condition. They referred to the achievements, the laborious achievements of a stratified society, and what was evolving in America had nothing to do with the past. So inevitably what happened, putting it far too simply, was that old forms gave way before the European tidal wave, gave way before the rush of the Italians and the Greeks and the Spaniards and the Irish people and Poles and Persians, Norwegians, Swedes, Danes, wandering Jews from every nation under heaven, Turks, Armenians, Lithuanians, Japanese, Chinese, and Indians. Everybody was here suddenly in the melting pot, as we like to say, but without any intention of being melted. They were here because they wanted to leave wherever they had been, and they were here to make their lives and achieve their fortunes and establish a new identity. Baldwin continues, I doubt if history has ever seen such a spectacle, such a conglomeration of hopes and fears and desires. I suggest also that they presented a problem for the Puritan God, who had never heard of them and whom they had never heard of. Almost always, as they arrived, they took their places as a minority. Minority because their influence was so slight and because it was their necessity to make themselves over in the image of their new and unformed country. There was no longer any universally accepted forms or standards. And since all the roads to the achievement of an identity had vanished, the problem of status in American life became and remains today acute. In a way, status became a kind of substitute for identity. And because money and the things money can buy is the universally accepted symbol here of status, we are often condemned as materialists. I continue, and the fear of losing status or the fear of not gaining it is perhaps the most insidious motivation for maintaining control and power at all cost, including killing innocent people who are perceived as a threat to that status and that power and that control. Baldwin names economic and political and social reasons for why this country has treated Black people in particular cruelly. One of the social reasons, he says, and these reasons are somewhat more important because they have to do with our social panic, with our fear of losing status. This really amounts sometimes to a kind of social paranoia. Sound familiar? One cannot afford to lose status on this particular ladder, for the prevailing notion of American life seems to involve a kind of rung-by-rung ascension to some hideously desirable state. If this is one's concept of life, obviously one cannot afford to slip back one rung. When one slips back not a rung, but back into chaos and no longer knows who they are. And this fear suggests to Baldwin one of the real reasons for the status of people of color in this country. In a way, people of color tell us where the bottom is, because they're there, and where they are beneath us, we know where the limits are and how far we must not fall. We must not fall beneath them, says Baldwin. I continue that this measure of our economic and our political and our social well-being continues to be an assessment of who is above and below us on the ladder of status, suggests that Baldwin's assessment is as timely now as it was 60 years ago. And we are now seeing the consequence of that social ethic in waves of violence that, combined with our technological capacity to kill many times over, leads to the spectacle of violence that we seem to awaken to now on almost a daily basis. Baldwin words seem ever more present at this moment, and I have adapted them for this occasion. We would never allow people of color to starve, to grow bitter, and to die in ghettos all over the country if we were not driven by some nameless fear that has nothing to do with people of color. We would never victimize, as we do, children whose only crime is color and keep them, as we put it, in their place. We would never drive people of color mad, as we do, by accepting them in ballparks and on concert stages, but not in our homes and not into our neighborhoods and not into our churches. It is only too clear, says Baldwin, that even with the most malevolent will in the world, people of color can never manage to achieve 1/10 of the harm which we fear. No, it has everything to do with ourselves. Of churches, Baldwin makes a particular theological point. His words here are also adapted. I suggest, he says, that the role of people of color in American life has something to do with our concept of what God is. And from my point of view, the concept is not big enough. It has got to be made much bigger than it is, because God is, after all, not anybody's toy. To be with God is really to be involved with some enormous, overwhelming desire and joy and power which you cannot control, but which controls you. I conceive of my own life as a journey towards something I do not understand, which is the going forward makes me better. I conceive of God, says Baldwin, in fact, as a means of liberation and not a means of control to control others. Love, he writes, does not begin and end with the way we seem to think it does. Love is a battle, says Baldwin. Love is a war. Love is growing up. Baldwin's creative moment comes with this recasting of our socio-racial relations, suggesting that we are all bound together forever. We are part of each other. What is happening to people of color is ultimately happening to all of us. Concluding his remarks with a vision of a country where there are no minorities. For the first time in the history of the world, he says, the one thing that all Americans have in common is that they have no other identity apart from the identity which is being achieved on this continent. This is not the English necessity or the Chinese necessity or the French necessity, but they are born into a framework which allows them their identity. The necessity of Americans to achieve an identity is a historical and a present personal fact, and this is the connection between you and me. I've been thinking a lot about Baldwin's words, and I went back to them specifically after I had heard the news late yesterday about the shooting in Texas. Because I thought to myself, how in the hell am I going to talk about creativity and speak to this moment all in one fell swoop? And I think for me, the challenge of Baldwin's words is to imagine going beyond the confines that we have created because of the histories that we have ingested and because of the cultures that we perceive, and find those ways toward a more lasting intimacy when we are able to transcend what we believe someone else is and actually open ourselves up to the possibility that by being present with each other differently, we can learn truly who another is. And we too can be known. This has never been more clear to me than the work I have been doing lately, helping to form a curriculum to train gang outreach workers. Sitting in a room full of folks who have a variety of experiences, including those who have learned how to come away from gang life and to posit something positive for themselves and their community. And clearly, my job at that table was to shut up and to learn. But more than that, it was to demonstrate a true integrity in terms of wanting to know another. Most of the social problems that we face, and when I say most, I'm thinking here of gang violence, homelessness, hunger, right, and poverty. If we look at causes, there are lots of social, institutionalized causes, and we can turn to our sociologists and we can learn all we want about that. But below all of those is a human deficit. And that is, we all carry within us fear of the other. Fear that somehow the other is going to take from us that which we cherish and that which we think gives us value. You want to be creative in this moment and address the realities in the world that we awaken to every morning? Ask yourself, how well do you know your neighbor? I have a neighbor in my neighborhood. In the last 2 months, we've had a neighbor that was arrested for selling methamphetamine out of his house, and another neighbor who has been taken into custody for mental health issues. And listening to neighbors talk, especially about the second of our neighbors, and the fear that they have that somehow this is going to all get out of control. And I said to them, do any of you talk with him? Like, do any of you ask how he's doing? Do any of you take a genuine concern in his welfare? So interesting to me. Like one of the only people on the block that when I got out of my car and that neighbor is in his front yard yells to me, "How's it going, preacher?" And I say, "It's going fine. How about for you?" You want to talk? doesn't take away the problems, but it alleviates the distance that we maintain, because the one thing that we share with folks on the margin is fear that relates all the way back to what Baldwin has been talking about. Somehow we fear that our status will be diminished if we open ourselves up to the possibility that by our mere presence in the lives of those on the margin, we might jeopardize our own. Until we can creatively conceive of a community where there is no one on the margin, where there are no minorities, where we are all striving for a common life, we will be stuck. And every morning we will wake up and we will continue to count how many more bodies and how many more lives have been shattered. The creative moment, which speaks to both our being and our becoming individually and collectively, are the ways in which we find the courage and strength to forge this vision of oneness, which welcomes our unique histories, our beautiful cultures, our extraordinary traditions. And because of that ethic of welcome, forges an identity which makes the kind of violence we continue to experience the hallmark of a bygone era, when our dignity and worth was more a measure of our status than our being and the potential of our becoming. What will it take for us to achieve this vision? That is the work of our common art. I leave you this morning with the words of my colleague, David Breeden. A work of art is a chance to rework the wounds of time, of self. A work of art is a shot at getting to the true image, a right symbol, a just world, even. At the frayed edges, artists swirl, loving, intricate spirits searching. Every work is a shot at getting it right, meaning the world just true, at least in the eclectic swirl of the artist's mind. Your mind, my mind, our mind. Amen, and blessed be. Would you please join together in our closing hymn, or excuse me, our litany found in your order of service this morning? And I'm going to need actually another, I only have one page of the order of service, unfortunately. Thank you very much. These words by Susan L. Van Dresser. Let us sing the magic of imagination and learn the lives of eras gone by which we build the world of our soul. Let us sing the magic of our lives together. From heart to lung, all new life that is to come. Go now with magic in your fingertips. Please join together in our closing hymn, found also on that same order of service insert, playing it through once and then singing it together. Please rise in body or in spirit. Creative mind, blessed companion, I hear your voice, when I rise, help me to hear its pain and struggle, help me find words that give me a choice. When you're within us, a constant presence, somehow equipped with what we need. If we but listen to our ears inward, our hearts respond, provide the seed. Creative mind, blessed companion, we hear your voice when we rise. Help us to hear its calm and beauty. Help us find peace and ardent voice. Out of the wonder, filled with delight, color and sound, and taste and love, the world within us, a constant presence, somehow equipped by the powers above. Creative mind, blessed companion, show us your voice when we rise. May you still guide us, may you still guide us throughout our long and creative lives. My friend and colleague Barbara Wells writes, may you find the deep peace of creation flowing in your spirit. May your senses awake to the creative spark that lives in you. May you walk in beauty and seek to create beauty wherever you go. May you take the risk of discovering the divine within you and around you. And may the Spirit of life bless you with courage and hope as you live creatively with others by your side. Amen. And blessed be. Please be seated. Are there any announcements this morning? Welcome to come forward.
Hi, I'm Mara Pentlarge. I'm going to be starting a support group for white people who want to process racism. 3 people signed up on that nice form that Evan Wilson sent out. If you're curious about it, come talk to me in coffee hour. We're going to start this group and get people thinking about how to be more anti-racist. You know, those experiences you had with a person of color and you feel a little funny about it, or that person who's of color that you want to get to know more, or you wish you had somebody of color that you wanted to get to know more. Come talk to me.
Hi, I'm Jessie. A couple of weeks ago, month ago, I came and gave a quick talk about Overlook Farm and all the exciting things that we're doing in Rutland. And the most exciting is this coming Saturday is our annual pancake breakfast. This is our biggest fundraising event of the year, and we're really excited. It's going to be in the Lilac Hedge Farm Bar area with a gorgeous view looking out over the farm. You can come and eat pancakes for a good cause, and then you can go visit the baby emus afterwards. Check out our garden space. It's going to be really exciting. And there's going to be a silent auction, and I believe Lilac Hedge is hosting a craft and vendor fair afterwards, so you can stick around for that as well.
What's the date again?
It's this coming Saturday, the 13th, from 8:30 to 11:30. If you buy tickets ahead of time, it's really great for us. First of all, there's a discount over the door price, and also Lilac Hedge will donate really fantastic breakfast sausages for all of our pre-ticket sales. So that is not on the farm, which is really wonderful as well. And they are a wonderful host to us. So if you are interested and you want to know more, or you want to buy tickets, I'm going to be hanging out with the QR code. And I've also posted the link in the Church Peeps Facebook page. So feel free to let me know if you have.
And do we have something like that that we could put in the newsletter?
Yes.
So if you send it to me or
Absolutely.
to Jen, we'll do
Okay.
that.
Will do.
And they're serving pancakes?
Pancakes, lots of them. Yeah.
What are the rest of you going to eat?
Well, there will be plenty for everyone. So hope to see you all there.
Also, for those of you who are interested, this evening at 7, we continue our adult faith development series online at 7 p.m. We're beginning a new curriculum called Spirit of Life, which is about Unitarian Universalist spirituality using the hymn Spirit of Life as the ground upon which that exploration will take place over the next number of weeks.
Hi, my name is Lynn Gastila, and just for anyone who wants to be out in the beautiful weather today at Elm Park between 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock this afternoon, potential candidates for City Council and for the school committee for Worcester will be gathering signatures that will permit them to be able to run. And people have been particularly invited to attend, people who will represent racial justice issues. Both the school committee and city council have been somewhat out of balance for many years. And so they're looking to balance out representation in those councils. So between 12 and 2 at Elm Park, collecting signatures. Thank you.
Just FYI, today is Family Day at the Worcester Art Museum. It is free to families. So if you haven't taken your kids there, or if you just want to refresh your life at the museum, everything is free. There's great activities for kids. They're going to try on armor, and there's an art cart that travels around. So I just wanted everybody to be aware.
There is not armor large enough. Once again, beloved, worship in this space is coming to an end, but our service continues next with an opportunity for refreshments and conversation. Wait a minute. Time out. Before you go for refreshments and conversation, we need to head out front for our all-church photo, which is being done this year by drone. So this is a new wonderful experience. I'll see you all out front.